I'm curious, what are your opinions on homeschooling versus private school versus public school? Because you
Mm.
recognize that your son's learning pattern is different, and I wonder, yeah, what's your I want to pick your brain. What are your thoughts? Because I know everybody learns differently, and what are the benefits? Or you take it from there.
Absolutely. So there have been some statistics that have shown that homeschooling actually does work, especially for students of color. Now, in terms of private schooling, I recognize and I'm fully aware that everyone can't afford, the price tag that comes with private schooling because it varies, in terms of where you live and where you like to send your child. In terms of public school, that was my bad experience that I had when my son was in pre-K. So I also don't want it to come off like I'm knocking public schooling. But for me, I feel as though with my son, I had to do what was best for him in that moment. And I knew that he was like his mom. He would not survive in public school. So that's why I felt like private school was the best thing that I had to do for him. Now, if I had it my way and I could have been a stay-at-home wife, absolutely, I would have homeschooled my son, or maybe I would have been in a different situation where I could have put him in a different school that I didn't have to pay for, you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda, we don't know. But I do feel like you need to observe your child and give them the resources that they need. So even if you have them in a public school, there are free resources that are out there that can help them, just like there are paid ones. For me, when my son was like when we went through the pandemic, I signed him up for varsity tutors and I paid almost $600 for that tutoring. But again, my son didn't ask to be here. So whatever sacrifices, I have to make, I'm going to do that because again, I want him, especially as a young black male, to be educated. I don't want him to be passed along. I don't want him to, get a distaste for education in his mouth because that can also happen. You know, I I've even recalled times where I spoke to people and they said, "Oh, well, because my parents weren't from here and they didn't speak English, this happened to me in school," and they just went along with it because they didn't know anything about, "Oh, I could reach out to this group as an advocate, or I could have a translator, or certain things legally even that you're entitled to people aren't aware of." And sometimes I feel like certain institutions take advantage of that so they could kind of tell you what it is and you're like, "Oh, okay, you believe them," especially if they look like you. But definitely pay attention to your child. For my In my situation, I noticed that my son had this knack for computers. He loved to do coding, he loved his video games, of course, what young man doesn't? And I put him into different programs that would help stimulate that. So my son is also in the NAACP. He's won a bronze medal for the app that he created. He actually has a competition, I believe it's next month or in the next month or two, to see if he will go for that gold medal. So, it's so many different things that are out there that we can put our kids in. But again, we have to search and see what it is that they like. Don't force it on them because if you force it on them, they're not going to like it. They're not going to be successful in it. And it can even, resent you a little bit, depending on what it is. But for my son, I made sure that when I saw that, I also put him in a mentoring program. He has a mentor with one of the scholarships that he receives at school. So you have to pay attention to your children and see what it is that they like as well as what they're lacking. So when you see that, okay, my child isn't doing that well in reading or my child isn't doing that well in math, pay for that tutor. If you can't pay for that tutor, ask your network. How many of us have friends that are teachers and see, okay, hey, what works for you? Oh, you have an after school program? Or hey, can you tutor? I mean, if they're your friend, they should be able to say, hey, I can even tutor them for an hour or two for the week, even if they can't do it consistently. Or again, go to that library, see what resources are there, what books are there. Even with the SAT, even though my son received SAT prep in school, I still went on Google and I purchased the books and we did it together. We did the worksheets. Like, you have to make sure that whatever school that you put them in, you still have to make sure that they're learning. Again, like I told you with the 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, do they know that from memorization or because they actually know the mechanics behind it? Because literacy is very important. I firmly believe there's so many young people out here, especially between the ages of 18 to 24, who we may deem as delinquent or, like you said, they're a rebel, they're a misfit. And really and truly, it's because they can't read and no one took the time to see, okay, can this child actually read or are we passing them along? You know, I'm pretty sure you also saw I think it's two articles now where there were the students that are suing their school because they graduated. One was like at the top of the school and he can't read.
Wow.
So again, we need to definitely make sure that we're paying attention to our child, which is also another reason why March 27th at 7 p.m. I'll be doing a webinar with Dr. Jacqueline Blanton on research-based strategies to help parents increase literacy at home. Because again, it starts at home, regardless of which institution you send them to.
Wow, that's amazing. I don't wanna Can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek? What are some maybe points on what parents do to
I
help them?
was curious too.
Well, what I'm gonna encourage you to do is tune in, so that way you can learn more about it, but
I
definitely read. Number one thing I would say is to read, and it starts as early as when they're in the womb. So, actually, let me rewind a little bit. Even before you conceive, you wanna make sure that you are at your healthiest, you are the best version of yourself, and then once you do decide to, become pregnant, while the child is in the womb, read to them. I know you've heard of the things about people putting the headphones on the belly, listening to Mozart and different things like that. All of those things help. And then even when the child is born, continue to read to them. You know, please do not stop that. Read to them before they go to bed, even when they go to school. See, reach out to their teacher. See if there's, especially that pre-K through third grade, that is the most crucial period for them. So you want to make sure that whatever they're doing in school, you want to make sure that you mimic that at home or enhance that at home. You know, go on that Amazon. We go on there anyway to go shopping. So look for those books. You know, Dr. Jacqueline Blanton also has a book called It Takes a Village. So I want you to make sure you get that book as well. So that way you can look at those worksheets and you can do those things at home. And even if you don't have a child right now, it's good to prepare. And even if you decide to mentor a child, the biggest thing is read with them. And it can help them even with like their math. It can help them later on down the line in life. Like you'd be surprised at how important reading is.
What I'm noticing, sorry, but what I'm noticing in the street a lot is like a lot of parents they kind of give their children phones, tablets, things to soothe them from the world, from their chaos. But it's like it's I think it's destructive that they do that. And then in schools, what we heard is like a lot of kids are now learning from videos. Now it's kind of like they picked up the habit from being in like a 2-year-old holding a phone, or like just on YouTube, then going into school and learning from a video again, right? So I guess for the parents that also have it kind of like that give their children a phone to soothe themselves, like how what kind of content would you suggest that those parents give to their children? Because like they're doing it anyway, but it's like, you know what, if they're gonna do it, let's give them something that a content that maybe they can actually utilize, right? Like, so I guess like what kind of programming would you pass down through that?
The number one thing that I would say is, as the parent, you can control what it is that they do. Take that phone away.
Mhm.
What I used to do with my son is during the week, I only allowed him to watch TV after a certain time because even if I came home, an hour or two after him, I would encourage my mom, can you check his work for me? Gives her something to do too. And then I would tell him, wait until I get home. I want to check your work. And then he would have like maybe about an hour or two that he could watch television. And of course, it would be like Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., things that were age appropriate. And even with that, whether it's on TV or it's on YouTube or whatever, you still have to monitor the content that our children are watching because you'd be surprised at the innuendos, the subliminal messages, things like that that they're sending to them. But I would say take it away from them. Have them pick up a book. Have them go back outside. Can we do that again? Go back outside, play, color, draw, stimulate them mentally, do all of those things. So I'll be honest with you, I really couldn't recommend a good site that I would encourage parents to do because I want them to get back into the habit of doing more family time, playing those board games. I remember when I was growing up on Sunday, that used to be our family day. Whether our family came over and everyone cooked, and then even when I had my son, Sunday became that day where we were playing Uno. We would cook. I had my son in the kitchen with me. He would be fake cooking. Like, I want us to get back to that space where we turn off the tablets, we turn off YouTube, we turn off the television, and we get back to getting back into each other. Because as you all know, there's so much going on in the world right now. And I feel like we need to get back to us.
Mm.
And it starts, like I said, it starts in the home, it starts with the parents. So please be careful, even if it is monitored on YouTube as being like, oh, it's kid friendly and things like that. Sit down with them and actually see what it is. Because sometimes, and I've done it too. Okay, this is a kid friendly show, it's a cartoon, it's animated. Oh, he's fine. And then sometimes from the kitchen, you hear certain things. You're like, wait a minute, what did they just say? Or maybe it's an ad that pops up that's completely different from the content they're watching. So that's why I would encourage parents to just take it away and let's go old school. Let's go back to those coloring books, going outside, the double dutch, and, whatever it is, going for a walk in the park, different things like that, and talk to your children to see what exactly is going on with them, what's going on in school. I would like for us to get back to that space.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry, I just have one more question. What would you recommend for students who are embarrassed to ask for help with their learning, or they recognize that something like they're not grasping information correctly, but they're embarrassed to go to their teachers, their parents to ask for help because they don't want to be singled out.
Hmm. I would definitely encourage them to go to someone who they do feel comfortable with, even if it's the gym teacher,
Mhm.
even if heck, it could be the lunch lady, someone to have a conversation with them, or even to, as I keep saying, I can't stress enough, get back into these libraries.
Yeah.
You can go into there. There's so many different things that they have going on, whether it is a workshop or it's the books, or go to the librarian. The librarian doesn't know you, and just say to them, I need help with reading. Or even if you want to say, I have a friend that doesn't know how to read, and it's really you. But, I have this friend that doesn't know how to read, and I would like to get them some books to help them. There's so many different things that people can do. And also just good old Google search, to find different literacy things. There's Literacy Volunteers of America. There is you can even go to church, even if it's not your church. Go there, talk to someone. But there's so many different free resources that are out there. So I don't want people to think that they have to pay for anything. But again, if you're uncomfortable, especially because, like you said, it's your teacher, someone that's familiar with you, go to someone you're not familiar with. Go to that librarian, go to that pastor, go to someone else and say, hey, I need help with this. And even if they can't help you, they should be able to guide you into the right direction.
I love how the information providing, because also the importance of exposing children and young adults into different environments so they can find what they're really passionate and good at. And I believe that's perhaps one of the biggest opportunities with education is just thinking beyond the classroom, thinking beyond the career, because there's more to career. There's life out there. There's society. There is social interactions. And one of the things that really captivated me, because you guys are killing it there. I need to up my game here.
Yes, wonderful
but
question.
but one thing that I love about, or all you're talking about, is the importance of self accountability. Perhaps providing a cell phone is the easy way out to not taking your children and exposing them to different environments, because you believe that that phone is going to do all of that. And what it does, it's going to make it eventually procrastinate a little bit more because it gets used to that dopamine from the phone, and it's not
Absolutely.
producing dopamine in different areas. And I think that's one of the things that, in psychology, it's important that you create a lot of coping mechanisms where you can produce dopamine, and you create these little safe places for you. And when you just create one that produces a lot of dopamine, it's very dangerous. You're exposing your children to become dependent, and a parent job is to make kids independent, not dependent. And I wanted to touch a little thing with you because I know self accountability is a huge, everything I hear about you is like how you are self accountable. How are you self accountable to your healing process?